Here we are, the world of Hyrule, a place where you will come across the craziest animals, creatures, and even devices, which we have all noticed after playing loads of Tears of the Kingdom. But, as you can imagine, this world is also filled with mystery. What is truly possible in a game like this? What can and can't be done? Well, the last couple of weeks, we've been looking into this by busting all kinds of myths, and today we are back again. After digging through the comments, I found a bunch of new suggestions, and this time, your comments will be shown on screen. People requested this, so I provide. But without further ado, let's look into these myths. Number 15. When all of us first entered this new version of Hyrule, we noticed quite quickly that everything from the previous game, Breath of the Wild, is gone now. The Guardians, shrines, ancient Sheikah tech, all of it is gone. Well, that's what we all thought at least. But after some exploration, we were able to find some things here and there. And one piece of Sheikah tech that can be found is the Ancient Blade. A weapon that is normally found on the very tip of an arrow, but this time it can be used on almost anything. And so someone said, what happens if you connect it to a Korok weapon? Will it act as a one-hit obliterator? Which was a weapon that was seen in the previous game, which basically kills any enemy in one hit. Well, I decided to test this. So I got a Korok sword that had the right perk, and after attaching the Ancient Blade to it, I went out to look for a victim. And as you can see, it is very powerful. But sadly enough, the special perk of the Korok weapon has no effect, and so the Ancient Blade can only be used once. After that, it just disappears. So, sorry Demonia39, this myth is false. Number 14. In Breath of the Wild, certain elemental weapons and items were very useful when fighting enemies. For example, to cool down or heat up a stone talus so you could climb on top, or to instantly take out certain enemies. However, some features were missing, but luckily enough, Nintendo did add them in the sequel. You can now throw items, which is incredibly useful, but at times you are missing stuff. Specific fire or frost items that could be crucial in your journey. So, is there a way to solve this? Well, maybe. I wondered if you could change a choo-choo jelly to whatever element you wanted, and so I decided to test this. I took some choo-choo jelly and bombarded it with different things like ice and fire fruit, which actually changed the elemental attributes of the jelly each time. And you could even change a whole bunch of them at once using only one piece of fruit. Now this is incredibly handy when you need a specific type and you're low on resources. And it also means that this myth is true. Number 13. In the previous videos, we have experimented loads with boomerangs. Really, the fascination you guys have with these things is astounding. And so here we are, again, looking at a boomerang myth which was suggested by this commenter. He was wondering whether a Keese eye creates a homing effect on a boomerang. Normally with arrows it basically gives you auto-aim. So is this the case with the boomerang as well when you throw it? Well, I got myself a boomerang, put a Keese eye on it, and decided to confront this Lizalfos. However, no matter how hard I tried, the boomerang wouldn't lock on his head automatically. Sure, sometimes I did actually hit him, but this was due to me aiming too well. I was obviously trying to miss, hoping that the Keese eye would correct my mistake. So before people claim that it did work, I tried this many times, and it really doesn't change the behavior of the boomerang. Really, the boomerang behaved normally, so sadly enough, B-Man, this myth is false. Number 12. Now the Sky Islands in Tears of the Kingdom are really cool, but in some ways they are disappointing. I discussed this with another YouTuber Commonwealth Realm recently. We expected more from them, but still the small concentrated sky segments we got were a lot of fun, and diving down to the world below is really cool. However, while the glider is a great way to cancel any fall damage, there are other ways of doing this using glitches, which we saw in Breath of the Wild. But not everyone knows about these tricks or can pull them off, so people started looking for alternatives. And one that was suggested by someone in the comments went as followed. Could a box fused to a shield actually help? So basically, the idea is that the box would break and take the fall damage instead of Link. But is this even a thing? Well, after finding a box, I decided to test it, both from an immense height all the way up on a sky island, and something less scary. Now, when I jumped off a sky island, I just straight up died. It didn't work. And when I jumped off this small piece of sky island on the surface, I also died. I even tested whether it would lower fall damage, but it doesn't. So, Neon Pancake, I appreciate your submission, but I gotta admit, this myth is false. Number 11. Now, in previous videos, we had looked at some combat tricks involving glitches, dual wielding, and so much more. And today we are once again looking at a potentially cool combat trick that was suggested in the comments. Now, this one is incredibly exciting, especially if it turns out to be true. So, let's get to the point. This person said that you can hold a two-handed weapon and a shield in your hand, so you're able to use both, which you normally can't do, which has its downsides. It doesn't allow you to block at all, for example. So I had to test this one, and luckily enough, it was easy to do as well. All I had to do was drop my two-handed weapon, hold my shield in front of me, and then spam the Y button while picking up the weapon off the ground. And to my surprise, it actually freaking worked. It allowed me to use the two-handed weapon, and when I held the targeting button, I could actually use my shield. Now, this trick is incredibly useful, and I will be using this constantly in the game. So I gotta say, Chloro, this is genius, and it's clear that this myth is real. Number 10. Fusing allowed for a lot of new things, special weapon combinations, new tactics, and even new forms of travel. And we all use that in the game. For example, shield surfing with a piece of ice attached allows you to go much further. However, what happens if you give one of these fused items to a bokoblin? Will they do anything with it? Well, just too chill for you asked me in the comment section what an enemy would do with a rocket shield. Because normally, if you have one and hold it in front of you, then Link will shoot up due to the rocket activating, which can be really handy in both combat and when you want to reach high places. So, will the same happen to a bokoblin? Well, after giving this fellow over here a rocket shield, I found out rather quickly that the answer is no. He will just use the shield like normal, and the rocket does absolutely nothing. So, sorry, just too chill for you, it doesn't work, which means that this myth is false. Number 9. Now, flying has been an element in all the Switch Zelda games. However, in Tears of the Kingdom, Nintendo took it to the next level. You can now create entire flying machines, which are very useful when going from Sky Island to Sky Island. However, there's a problem with all of this. It does cost a lot of resources or zonite, depending on how you do it. So, are there ways of getting around that are significantly cheaper? Well, according to a viewer, there is a way. He stated that adding a fan to your shield allows you to glide slightly further if you have your shield on your feet when gliding. And I gotta say, this does make sense. It creates a form of thrust right below Link, which should help. But does it? Well, I tried this, but I gotta say, I was disappointed with my findings. It doesn't seem to work at all. I couldn't see a difference personally. It didn't really change anything. It seemed to be a placebo at best. And there was also a massive downside. Doing this degrades the durability of a shield incredibly fast. I burned through 5 shields in no time, and actually had to reload a previous save state, or I would have no shields in my inventory. So sorry, Daniel Chang, this claim just isn't true as far as I can see. Number 8. And here we are again, another Boomerang Myth. Really, if it keeps going on like this, I gotta make a dedicated boomerang video. Now, this time around, we will be combining a boomerang with a wing, which was suggested by this comment. According to Andrew, the boomerang will go faster and further this way. And so, I created this special weapon and gave it a shot. And I immediately found out that it works very, 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 very well. The thing almost breaks the sound barrier. And compared to a normal normal boomerang, the difference is clear as day. So I gotta say, Andrew, I didn't know about this, and it's cool to see that this myth is true. Number 7. Alright, remember how I mentioned all that stuff about getting around, going from Sky Island to Sky Island?
Well, yeah, Wily, that was like 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, fair. Well, we got another cool trick that could potentially help with travel in the sky, and it's incredibly simple. In the game, you can attach almost any item to the tip of an arrow, which is almost always used during combat. Well, that's what you would think, because according to Daniel here, you can also create platforms wherever you want using a hoverstone. Just shoot it below your feet, and you can stand on it to regain your stamina, allowing you to glide much further. As you can imagine, this would be incredibly useful, so I tested it, and to my surprise, it really works. I could create platforms anywhere, which would be handy when traveling, but also during a boss fight with a Gleeok. So in the end, Daniel's claim was right. This myth is 100% real. Number 6. When Breath of the Wild released, we got to see and experience a bunch of new things, and one of my favorite new weapons was the Eightfold long blade, a Yiga weapon with a weird mystic power that allowed it to literally cut through air, and so it shot out some sort of wind slash. And personally, I love this. It really reminded me of the great Helix sword from Majora's Mask. You know, the one that the fierce deity has? That thing was sweet. And now in Tears of the Kingdom, this thing returns. However, now we can fuse it with all kinds of things. And according to the real Cocoa Media, you can give this weapon cool elemental powers. If you add a fire or frost Lizalfo's horn to the sword, then the air slash will actually have these powers. As you can see here, the sword creates a gigantic air and fire slash that sets everything ablaze, which is so cool that it blew my mind away when I first saw it. So yeah, this myth is true, and thank you so much for sharing this, because I absolutely love it. Number 5. Now, in my opinion, the best new boss that they added in this game is the Gleeok, a menacing dragon with 3 heads that is a true challenge. I personally find them harder to deal with than the Guardians from the previous game, and this also goes for the Gloomhands. But, like always, people try to find new ways to cheat the system, ways to make it all easier. We even saw this with the Guardians, where people shoot them in the eye, and then they went for the legs right away. And now people are coming up with all kinds of ideas on how to defeat a Gleeok with a lot less effort. Now, this person, whose name I'm not gonna pronounce because I don't really know how, wondered whether a Muddlebud would cause the heads of the Gleeoks to fight each other. I mean, normally they confuse an enemy and make them fight their friends, so does that happen here as well? Yes and no. The Muddlebud does affect the beast, and he would most likely attack anything nearby, but the heads do not attack each other. So, sorry my man, this myth is false. Number 4. Now, out of all the Zonite devices in my inventory, there's one that I barely ever use, the balloon. Sure, it can be great at times, however in a lot of cases I just decided to use another Zonite device like a wing or rocket. However, someone said that you can make the balloon rise a lot faster if you use a pine cone as fuel. But does this really work? Well, after testing, I found conflicting results. Just using the pine cones was incredibly ineffective. It would give the balloon a slight lift, but barely any really. So it was just a big waste of time. But then I tried it again with some burning wood, and I just threw a pine cone on top of it. And at that point I found out that it actually did work. The balloon would go up faster, but in the end it wasn't really a life-changing difference. Heck, it even had massive downsides because each time I did it, I would be set on fire, which even killed me in the end because I didn't have any food items. So in the end, Jason Brown is right, this isn't fake, but personally, I won't use this trick. Number 3. In this video, we have tested multiple things that would supposedly improve the gliding in the game, either allowing you to get further or reach places more easily. And now we will look at another one. This commenter, whose name is another one I will not attempt to pronounce to save myself some embarrassment, said this: does a shield with an attached wing while on your back give an aerodynamic effect, similar to the wingsuit that's in the game? Normally, this armor allows you to have more control when diving down to the surface world. You can cover great distances without needing the glider, and it even cancels fall damage if you upgrade it, which is really handy. But can a wing attached to a shield achieve the same thing? Or does it basically do nothing? Well, here you can see footage of me jumping with and without it, and as you can see, nothing really changes. I don't have any extra control, and when I finally get to the ground, I just die. So yeah, it doesn't really do much. Sure, the idea was great, and I get why I was recommended to try this, but sorry, this myth is sadly enough false. Number 2. Now our next one is a bit, weird, to be honest. But hey, we are here to try even the weirdest things. And I gotta admit, it's still a fun one. Now we all know that when you arrive at Zora's domain, you will see a lot of strange goop everywhere, which was created by some sort of monster that you later on defeat. However, until then, you have to deal with this mess. And one way you can get rid of this stuff is by using water, which works very well. But now the big question is, can something else get rid of it as well? This is the question that crazy weirdo RH had, and he even suggested something for me to try: a mop, which can sometimes be found at a stable. And after reading this and laughing, truly laughing, I had to test this. So shout out to my sister for recording this, because I already beat the dungeon, so she had to do this for me. But as you can see, it does nothing. The mop just doesn't work, even though it's made for cleaning messes like this. So yeah, sadly enough and weirdly enough, this one is false. Number 1. Bullying. It is something that all of you would condemn, but in secret, in the shadows, all of you do it. All of you love to find that one victim and torment them for hours. And hell, then you share your evil deeds with the world. You know what I'm talking about. Those poor Koroks that all of you do horrible things to. However, most of these are physical. You know, you burn them, drown them, use explosives, or something else. However, I wanted to try something new. Psychological warfare. Can you somehow terrorize them mentally? And I thought of something. How do they react to stelbokoblins or stel body parts? Will they be terrified of them? Well, after finding some parts and even footage on the internet, I can say with certainty that they are incredibly afraid of them. Each time they see them, they will run for the hills. So yeah, they really do not like them, and you can quite easily bring them to the Korok forest. So if you ever want to bully them, just do this, because it works incredibly well. Now those were all the myths we had for this episode. However, don't worry, the party isn't over. You can watch my other myth-busting videos right now, so be sure to do so if you haven't yet. And don't forget, leave your suggestions down below in the comments, and you might get featured in a video. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to subscribe, click the bell button, click the like button, all the good stuff. Leave any suggestions in order to improve the videos or stuff that I should test in the comments down below. And yeah, I really hope you like the fact that I added the comments in the video now. I thought it would be a fun little community thing, you know, and it was requested after all. So yeah, cool. I don't really know what to say else. So bye everybody.